Mobility is changing as well. We're constantly hearing about self-driving cars, machines that communicate autonomously. How much of that is real? How much of it is hype from the industry? I want to bring up our next panel to get some answers. Please welcome our moderator, Andreas Fassbender of Hewlett-Packard. Andreas, welcome. And his panelists, you guys just come on up. Helmut, Schützt, Markus, Schmidt, Kranz, and Christoph, Amma. I want to let you introduce your panelists because you know where their strengths are. Take a seat, guys.
Good afternoon. Thank you for making it here and listening in. So this is about mobility. It is not so much about diversity on this panel now, but they're giving this big guy a challenge on agility. So they say, well, you have 5 minutes less, so we need to talk a little bit faster. As we heard, mobility, we read this every day. It is about self-driving cars, autonomous machines. And mobility, I think in this case, is not only about this little stuff that we all carry around. It's also about mobility and mobility services in cars, in buses, in trucks, in vans, and in gesture control. So we see how we fit that in. So please welcome my panel. And I start on the right of you. This is Dr. Christoph Amma. He's the founder and CEO of Kinemic. Are you the CEO? I didn't put that down.
All CEOs at the moment.
Wow. Then we have Helmut Schmidt. He is the CIO of Daimler Trucks, Buses and Vans. Welcome. Then we got Markus Schmidt. He's an executive vice president at Bosch. And at your very left, this is Dr. Kranz, CIO of ThyssenKrupp Steel AG. And welcome, everybody. So while I take a seat, let me just start and let you three guys. So we made it easy for you by the haircut. So we start with Dr. Kranz maybe. Question to you is, if you quit your job tomorrow and you start a startup, what would it be? So please do a quick pitch, 1 minute or so. And we have Christoph Amma then judging what he wants to invest in.
So first I will not ask my boss, of course. So to make a startup, we're talking about mobility here. And when I look at my business currently, we have a need for, I call it a mobile identity, because everything is mobile. It's material, it's people, it's trucks and traffic going around. And when I especially talk about people, I'd like to have a startup dealing with a kind of tag or something that you can identify people walking around, especially in the heavy industries, in dangerous areas, so that we, for example, do not open a door if the people are not trained and things like that, and we automatically can authenticate the people to a machine or to a task they have to do.
Thank you.
So good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. So what would be my startup I would like to found if never I would quit my job? I'm traveling around quite a lot in the world and visiting a lot of megacities. And if you look at the pain points of these megacities like Mumbai or Shanghai and so on, it's of course traffic, it's pollution, it's parking, so a lot of stress. And talking with some of these megacities, I did recently, for example, in Dubai and also in Singapore, they're very much working on new mobility concepts, just to eliminate all these pain points. And I'm very much convinced that in the future, in these mobility concepts of the megacities, the approach of so-called light e-mobility, so small vehicles, electrified, two-wheelers, like e-bikes, e-scooters, three-wheeler, like e-rickshaw in India, or small light electrical vehicles with four wheels, will be a very important part of the future mobility concept. And I would like very much to build up a startup to offer solutions, mobility solutions to these future megacity concepts to eliminate all these pains for the people. And then all these megacities will be very attractive in the future.
Thank you.
So I would also do something for the city. So we have a lot of problems today with pollution, with a lot of traffic. And on the commercial side vehicle, where we distribute products, parcels to the people, I think there I would do something to build up logistic centers in front of the cities, and then have the delivery from there on with electric vans or electric small trucks to the people to bring them their parcels and the products. And I would do something to improve these processes and to bring in that into the cities.
So now our investor, Dr. Christoph Amma, where would you invest in and why would you do so?
Thanks. Okay, I mean, that's a hard question, okay, since, okay, I'm an investor now, but I think I will choose your idea because, first of all, I mean, there are lots of mega cities in the world, so there's, from an investor perspective, seems to be quite a lot of potential in making money out of that. And on the other hand, I think I like the idea that it really has the appeal of changing how people experience cities and how people live and make a better living of people, basically.
Okay, thank you.
So we should talk after the panel discussion. Okay.
And maybe the other two gentlemen want to chime in on this one and also invest in that model with your ideas. So going to the real challenges that you see today in your business. So what are the biggest challenges you see in mobility in your business? So you are working for trucks, vans, and buses. So what are the challenges you see?
So the challenges on our side are, on one side, we really want to make sure that the truck is never stuck, that this truck is always running, it's up and running, and our customers are making money with that. And we are looking for solutions to really help our customers that this is really working well. And one example is what we are also now showing and communicating at the IAA in Frankfurt. In Hanover, we are coming up with the predictive maintenance. That means we have all the telematic data from our trucks. We are using them, and with that, we are not only able to see when some part is getting some problem. We are also seeing that in the future, in advance, we can see when the truck will get some problem with a certain part or whatever, and we can inform the driver or the fleet that there is no problem right now. The truck is still up and running, but there might be a problem in 1,000 kilometers or in 2,000 kilometers, and we can then already prepare the workshop, make reservation in the workshop, and when the driver goes in there, the part is already there, and the mechanic guy is there waiting, and so he doesn't need to wait for one day until the repair is done. So he goes there. The workshop knows already that the truck is coming. He knows what the problem is, and then hopefully in 1 or 2 hours later, he can leave again. And this is really something where we add customer value, because then the truck is not stuck on the Autobahn. It's then much more organized, and we don't have big hustle there in that area.
Okay, thank you. So next question to Markus Schmidt. You are representing Bosch, which I believe is a bit more in the supplier base than in the OEM. So do you agree to those challenges? What do you see in your industry?
I mean, I've been now in automotive industry almost for 30 years, and I can tell you the last 5 years have been really with dramatic changes. And the next year will be exactly the same. So this is really, we are living in the automotive industry, what I call a transformation from automotive to mobility solutions. We don't think anymore just the car with 4 wheels, but the whole ecosystem of mobility solutions, how to move from A to B. And there, I think there are 3 major trends which are also the challenges for Bosch. The first one is electrification. So we move from combustion engines to electrified, not only for light mobility, what I mentioned before, but for the whole car industry. And this is a fundamental change, very much depending also what we call the tipping point for electrical vehicle. The second is automated driving. This at the end without driver. In the first step, automatic parking. Next step will be highway automated driving. The most challenging is, of course, to drive automatically in the mega cities or in the big cities. And the third one is connectivity. This means how to bring the car into the internet, but also how to bring the driver into the internet. And this is a very fast-moving also trend, because very much consumer electronics and consumer trends are coming also into the automotive industry. And this is also a new challenge because new players from the IT industry or new startups with no legacy enter this market, and this means your customer base is changing, but also your competitors are changing, and also the whole value chain, moving from hardware to embedded software to IoT solutions, is also very much changing.
Thank you. So, Michael Kranz, you are not really in the steel business, so you're providing to the other businesses, and mobility maybe means different things in steel production. So what is your view on that?
So yes, I'm in steel production. So Steel Europe produces steel, and the question is, what is digital at steel? And we have three areas where we see that digitalization affects us a lot. The first is supply chain management. It looks a little bit old concept, supply chain management, but we want to address a better customer service on the one hand side, and also provide, let's say, a kind of digital companion to our products so that our customers can use our products better. This is one challenge we have. On the other hand, we have two real mobility scenarios. One is compared to what you have said from the truck perspective. We also have an area about, some say, the size of Monaco. So we have a lot of intralogistics, and we have the same challenge to make sure that the trucks are loaded correctly, and also the trains. And on the third area is about mobile maintenance. So in this large area, we have to make sure, and also in a kind of predictive maintenance, that we send people at the right time to the right machines and areas. And on the other hand, those are big buildings, for example, and we do some experiments with drones, for example, to make sure that we don't need a lot of effort to bring people up. We send a drone up and see if there is something to repair or not.
Cool stuff in a steel company. Before we go to Christoph, Amma in a moment, a question to you, Michael Kranz. Are you working with startups already today, and what is your experience?
So we are not that far as the guy from NBV has told us in the session before, but we are currently are at the beginning of that phase and discussing how to work with startups, and we're in the phase of developing some use cases, also using design thinking principles.
Thank you. So Christoph, Amma, I think you have seen all those three gentlemen at your booth over there, which is on the left to the right of you at the end of that hallway. Tell us about your company and how you can provide services in the mobility area.
Okay, so we're doing a little bit something different. We are building solutions to enable hands-free interaction with all kinds of digital devices by using gestures. So you can simply control any kind of devices by simply doing gestures, maybe even use your hand as a 2D mouse replacement, and by this we allow especially the hands-free control of augmented reality glasses, which will be one of the next devices that will be important in different areas. And our solution doesn't use any cameras, so we use armbands that contain inertial sensors, so you can even use a smartwatch because it's already in there, all the sensors. And those sensors are much more robust against any kind of environmental influences like lighting conditions, so we can even provide reliable function in industrial scenarios.
So one could imagine that we have workers in a steel factory, which is quite impressive. Like it looked to me like the entrance to hell when I first visited it, when you see all the steel cooking there and the workers working with that. Have you been working with with corporations already?
Yes, so we are really a young company. We founded the company in March and showed our solution to the public at the CeBIT fair in Hanover. But we now set up already first pilot projects with large industry partners here in Germany, where we do pilot implementations of our solutions.
Thank you. So let's maybe look a little bit out in the future. I think somebody said it's difficult to predict something, especially things in the future, but let's give it a try. So start with Helmut Schützt and then go around here. If you look out 10 years in your industry, what do you think will be the changes that will be seen there?
Well, we will see a lot of changes, which he explained in the area of connectivity, and autonomous driving. So in 10 years, we will see a lot of trucks and vans and cars driving autonomously, first on the big highways, but I think in 10 years it will also start in the cities. So there are many changes in that area. And we will also see a lot of, let's say, new business models, new services, which are related with all that, which come along and where we are working on. And I think there we will also work together, and we are already working together with startups to bring in all this innovation. So in the future, it's not only about selling products, selling new trucks or vans or passenger cars. It's also very much to come up with new services. And I think there it really makes sense to work together with startups to bring in innovations, to get new ideas. And I think there in the combination of big companies and startups, we can really work together to create something new.
Thank you.
Yeah, so looking into the future, what will happen next 10 years? I mean, we are now in the middle of this huge competition between, I would call the companies coming out of the digital world and the companies coming out more from the physical world. And especially in Germany, mainly the companies coming out of the physical world, definitely. And what is clearly our target, and I think probably my colleagues will share it, is that the companies coming out of the physical world would like to still be leading companies in 10 years. And that's where we have to go for. That's why we need to increase our competences in software. That's why we need to increase our competence in connectivity. And what is also one of the big trends is that the market is more and more end-consumer driven. This means even if you're on a B2B business, you have to fully understand the B2C part. That what is really the need, the pains, as I mentioned before, of the end consumer, and derive out of this what is your future business. And this means as an engineering-driven company, you have to change very much from pure fascinating engineering, which is still very important, to business model innovation. With big data, with all kind of deep learning, to look how the business models also in mobility solutions will change, and you have to make sure that you can fully adapt in the value chain to these new business models. And that's why you need also, in addition to your technical competences, also huge competence in business model innovation, in a lot of creativity. And this you can only get, and I'll finish, if you also have a good culture of startup, either internally, perhaps we come back to this point later, but also with a very close relationship with the startup committee, because these ideas, especially on business model innovations, are very much driven out of small companies, because they take more risks, they go for minimum viable product, they test it out in the market, more in the B2C areas, and then they come up with a scalable solution. And that's where you have to have very close contacts, otherwise you will miss the opportunities.
So I completely agree to that idea. But I bet that in 10 years we need steel the same way as we need it today. Because if you imagine, for example, this building here is built of steel and cars and so on. So my bet for 10 years is that we will spend more money into services in IT than we spend today into the physical assets, even for steel. So, and this is a tremendous change also for our company. We also want to work together with startups, having new ideas, for example, also maybe disruptive business models, new sales channels. And I believe that in the future, the supply chain to our customer and their customers will be linked much, much closer together. But at the end, you can say it all starts with us because we are transforming raw material into the first usable product. So when we bring out a very good digital service or something, I'm convinced that the whole industry will benefit out of it.
Thanks. 10 years from your view.
Okay, I think from my perspective, we will see in the next 10 years that there will be a transformation from mobile phones and tablets to more wearable computing solutions, and that will change the way how we interact with computers, especially in the mobile scenario. Especially when you think of augmented reality glasses, maybe in 10 years we already have contact lenses, who knows? But I mean, all those ideas, they are really old, but now we are at the point where the technology is at the point that we really can build those systems, and this will fundamentally change how we interact with computer systems, and will probably bring us something like a digital worker. And I hope we will be one of the companies that builds one of the cornerstones of that technology.
Thank you. Maybe two questions on startups. I know that you have a startup hub in Berlin. So is this similar to what we saw in the keynote before from EnBW when we got on stage?
Yes, I think it's similar. So we also have one in Stuttgart. So we have several hubs. It's not only one. And for us, it's important to bring in these hubs outside of the classical organization. So to come up with innovations and with a different, let's say, risk-taking approach and so on, and all this agile teams, I think that's really better to be outside of the classical organization. We are also trying to do something within the organization, change internally, but to change that, what has been learned and built up over so many years, this is not so easy, and this also takes time. So therefore, we are really doing that in these hubs where we have teams who are really relatively independently working outside of all the big administrative things which we have in big organizations. And we give them a lot of freedom and responsibility, and they work on developing new business models, new prototypes, and interact also with customers to find new solutions for the future. And I think that's the right setup to do this in this mix of, let's say, something outside of the organization, but also bring in something in the big organization to also get a new spirit and mindset and change in the leadership culture.
Thank you. So Markus Schmidt, if I understand your CV correctly, you have been both in startups and in the corporate world. So your views on how Bosch is working with startups today?
I was not really in the startups, but I did very much support within Bosch to build up startups, corporate startups. And we already started, I think, some years ago when the startup hype, or whatever you call it, was not so popular at that time, or not even a big subject. We have started two activities which are quite successful today. I would just like to mention it. One was a spin-off of so-called MEMS sensors, which are used in the automotive industry for ESP, airbag, and engine management, and so on, also in the consumer industry. So temperature measurements, gyros, and so on. And we use it in the consumer electronics very much for smartphones and tablets. Today, 3 out of 4 smartphones in the world are with sensors out of this spin-off. This is now the leading company for MEMS sensors in the consumer electronic, with a huge growth opportunities in the IoT sector, but also for wearables, for virtual reality, augmented reality, drones, and so on. So it's a huge business. And the second one we started some years later was on e-bike. Probably some of you might know this. And now also Bosch is in the e-bike sector, the worldwide market leader. And both spin-offs are more or less now medium-sized companies. And they have to look now more and more not to get disrupted by other startups. So they're already much more advanced. And we have a lot of new also activities started. I mentioned before e-scooter, but also in the area of Internet of Things. But we also stopped some activities. That's also very important after 3 or 4 years, that you make sure that when you have corporate startups, that if you stop a business, which sometimes happens, that's quite normal, that you reward the people who have been in the startup. And you move them into new, very attractive positions. We even organized, a little bit copied from the startup community, fuck-up night for these companies, just to give a testimonial about, stopping the business. And for example, this week on Thursday, we are also organizing our 3rd pitch night. So we really copied somehow from the startup community the internal pitches for really innovations in the very early phase, like A pitch or B pitch. And this is also, meanwhile, quite successful. And what is, of course, very important is this innovator's dilemma. always recommend to everybody to read this book, because it shows you very clearly, if a company is not successful, then normally you know what happens. But if a company is very successful in the core business, you are so much focused on your core business, because your customers are driving you, your investors are driving you. The best people are always in the core business, and you don't have time to look if something is going to disrupt you. And only if you do spin-offs, or you go directly in relationship with startups, at least you do spin-offs in your company and give them the freedom, they might be able to somehow much better sensing the environment and help you also to anticipate any kind of disruptive ideas which might in 3-5 years also jeopardize your core business. And speed is now very important. Sometimes it took 10 years to be disrupted. Today it can happen in 1 or 2 years. And then if you are not sensing your environment, it might be already too late. That's why startup culture is, on the one hand, for good new business, of course very important, but also somehow to protect your core business.
Thank you. Speaking about sensing brings me back to you, Christoph, Amma. So if you're thinking about your solutions, you heard what Michael Kranz was saying about Monaco in Duisburg. And how could your solutions help a company like ThyssenKrupp being better in their supply chain, in their business to business, business to consumer business?
Okay, I mean, when I'm thinking about steel production, I think of very hostile environments, at least. And I think that might be one possibility to use our solution really in the plant, if currently workers might need to operate some terminals that are hard to operate because they're wearing heavy working gloves. It's dusty and hot conditions, and so that might be a possibility for the workers to make it easier to actually control any kind of terminals in the production process. So that might be a possibility.
Okay. So Michael Kranz, would you see some opportunity of working together, or some interest in getting things improved?
Yeah,
trying to do some matchmaking here.
That's absolutely fine. Yes, of course, because we have these environments, and hands-free access to computer systems or something else is very important for us, at least to experiment with that. We've seen also some other nice ideas here, and it's absolutely worth to talk about.
What do you think are some success factors for a young company like Kinemic?
I would say first, of course, you have an idea, yeah? Then bring this idea to life, and then you enter a stage where you need some partners to scale it up, to make it, let's say, industry-proof, and then to scale it up. And I guess you're at the beginning of that phase currently.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
This could be the beginning of a wonderful friendship, too. Yeah. What is that? Casablanca, I think. Do we have microphones out there from the organizers? So is there any question from the audience to our wonderful panelists? I think I paid a few of you to come up with some very spontaneous questions.
Now we know.
Okay. Then I would say we go into a closing round. So, Christoph, Amma, if you want to close it up and also maybe give an outlook on the next 2 days and invite some people to your booth, and I would then continue the round and start with you.
Okay, yes, so we are on the connected mobility stage, and we have, if anybody got curious about our solution, we have a running demo system you can even try out, so please come to our booth, and I'd also be happy to talk some more to you afterwards.
Some closing remarks on mobility, on this show, on the event?
So I think the event is really a very good opportunity to bring together startups with big organization or big and medium-sized organizations. I've been already at his booth. It's really interesting what they have and what they can really show. But also many other startups have really very good ideas, and it's really worth to take the time and to talk to them and to see what we can take and where we can try something out and experience something. So it's really great to be here. It's a pleasure to be here and to network and to use that community. So a very good organization here.
Yeah, I also appreciate very much this event, because I think it's very important that there's a very close relationship, I would say on eye level, between the startup community and also corporate companies. And I'm also very pleased to find also some now very good events and startup companies also in Germany and also in south of Germany. I was traveling around very much during the last years in, already mentioned before, Silicon Valley quite often, but also of course Israel, Singapore, or Shanghai. Asia is also very much developing. Don't underestimate. It's not just the Western world, not just the US. It's around the globe. And I think we have very much also to catch up in Germany on this particular issue, especially also taking risks, more entrepreneurship and so on. Otherwise, we will not survive in the competition against the US and also Asia. So I very much appreciate that we have this kind of initiatives also now in Germany, and looking around this morning, there are very attractive also business proposals, and I think, yeah, just let's do it. Just let's cooperate, and when it's needed, we exchange our information, and when it's needed, we are going for partnership.
So this is really a very exciting conference so far, and I'm as a citizen of Karlsruhe, of course, I'm proud that it's here in this ZKM. So this is really good. Comment also on mobility. You may heard that ThyssenKrupp is much more than steel. So we have an automotive business as well and an elevator business. And you might have heard of our new innovation in the elevator business. This is the elevator without a rope. So, and you can see this in the new test tower in Rottweil, which is not far away from here, and in the Black Forest, the Schwäbisch Alb, I guess. And it will be open to the public at Easter 2017. So this is a nice innovation, bringing together a lot of faculties. So for example, the trans-rapid technology, steel, the dampers from automotive, and also electronic systems to steer that. And there is maybe in the future a new ecosystem around that. So, and that is ThyssenKrupp. It's not only steel, it's bringing all the different faculties together. And we are also currently working on a so-called ThyssenKrupp garage, where we bring in young people to give us the next new ideas. So I'm happy to be here. So if somebody likes to contact me, I'm here the whole day, and yeah, I'm happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So when I first saw the big test tower in Rottweil, I thought you could easily see it from here. It's really a huge tower. I saw it was lit up as a Christmas tree around Christmas, so then on Easter we can visit it. Thank you for being here. I want to also point to my colleagues from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Bernd Gill and the team, and some other colleagues are here, open for discussion. I think it's a great opportunity to connect with the startup world, and it is a real honor to be here. It has been an honor to be a host and have such fantastic panelists. And I wish you a very good conference, very good day, and have fun, learn a lot.
Thank you very much to our panel on the future of mobility. Thank you to you, Andreas, for your moderation, for your matchmaking, and for your timeliness. This was, in fact, our first panel to finish on time. I think that deserves a round of applause from me. Very good.